He's the most infamous traitor in the Seven Kingdoms, the man who broke his sacred oath and stabbed his king in the back. But what if that one act of betrayal was the most heroic thing anyone in Westeros ever did? We're taught to hate the Kingslayer, but the truth is, his treason saved 500,000 people. And we're going to show you why the most hated man in Westeros was actually its greatest unsung hero. In the world of Game of Thrones, honor is a currency more valuable than gold. It defines men like Ned Stark and destroys those who don't have it. And for years, no one seemed to lack honor more than Sir Jaime Lannister. When we first meet him, he's arrogance personified. The Golden Lion, blessed with looks, titles, and a swordsmanship that's second to none. He's also the guy who shoves a 10-year-old boy out of a tower window just to protect his darkest secret. He's the Kingslayer, an oathbreaker, a man whose name is a curse, whispered in every corner of the realm. The show rolls him out as a villain, plain and simple. We see his contempt for honor, his casual cruelty, and his all-consuming, destructive love for his sister Cersei. He's the problem. He's the antagonist, a man defined by a single, unforgivable sin. That's the official story anyway. The one the world believes. But it's a lie. The truth is far more complex and way more tragic. To understand Jaime Lannister, you can't just look at his crimes. You have to look at the moments in between. The moments where the mask slips and you see the man underneath. Because beneath the gilded armor and that cynical smirk isn't a villain, but a man crushed by the weight of an impossible choice. A man whose greatest sin was also his most profound act of heroism. So let's peel back the layers of the Kingslayer and prove that his betrayal wasn't just justified, it was absolutely necessary. To appreciate the hero, you first have to understand the monster everyone thought he was. Season 1, Jaime Lannister is a perfect example of how to write a character you love to hate. He acts with this chilling belief that being a Lannister puts him above the petty rules of morality that bind other men. His entire world orbits his relationship with Cersei, and that love is so powerful, it blots out everything else. Honor, duty, and the lives of innocent kids. The moment he pushes Bran Stark from the tower is designed to be a point of no return. The things I do for love, he says, which isn't an apology, it's a justification. It's a terrifyingly simple philosophy. His love for Cersei is the only law he follows. Anything that threatens it gets eliminated. The act is shocking, not just because it's brutal, but because it's so cold. He isn't conflicted, he isn't sorry, he's just solving a problem. This perception is backed up by his own words. When Catelyn Stark confronts him about his lack of honor, he practically scoffs at the idea. He points out the hypocrisy of the honorable Ned Stark, who supposedly fathered a bastard, and dismisses his own Kingsguard vows as a tangled mess. So many vows, he tells Catelyn. They make you swear and swear. Defend the king, obey the king, keep his secrets. Or what if the king is mad? What if the king is a monster? At the time, it just sounds like a guy making excuses. It sounds like he's trying to justify his own failures by blaming the system. He's built an entire identity around not caring. He leans into the name Kingslayer because the alternative, explaining himself, is a weakness he just can't afford. In a world that's already judged him, arrogance becomes his armor. He has become the man everyone thinks he is because it's easier to be hated for a lie than to be destroyed for the truth. He's been playing the part for 17 years after all. For years, this is the Jaime we know, a man defined by his worst actions and his cynical worldview, but what we don't get yet is that his cynicism isn't a character flaw, it's a scar. A scar left by the one time he chose to do the right thing and was damned for it for the rest of his life. The revelation of who Jaime Lannister really is begins with a loss. When his sword hand is chopped off by Locke, he loses more than just a limb. He loses his entire identity, his power, his confidence, his very name. It was all built on being the greatest swordsman in Westeros. Without his hand, he's stripped of his best defense against the world. He's broken, humbled, and for the first time, truly vulnerable. This vulnerability leads to the single most important scene in his entire story: the bathhouse at Harrenhal. Stripped bare, feverish, and missing the hand that defined him, Jaime Lannister finally stops performing. The baths aren't just for cleaning, they're for confessing. The steam blurs the edges and the heat dissolves his armor, both the physical and the psychological kind. And it's here, in this moment of total defeat, that he tells the truth to the one person who has only ever seen him as an oathbreaker, Brienne of Tarth. He doesn't ask for pity, he doesn't want forgiveness. He just tells the story because the weight of being misunderstood has finally become heavier than the shame of being seen. He tells her about the Mad King, Aerys Targaryen. He describes Aerys's obsession with wildfire, that terrifying green fire that burns so hot not even water can stop it. He talks about the king's paranoia, how he saw traitors everywhere and loved watching men burn alive. Then he gets to the heart of it. As Robert's rebellion was ending and the Lannister army was sacking King's Landing, Aerys gave his final order. He told his pyromancer to light the caches of wildfire hidden all over the city. Under the great sept of Baelor, beneath the slums of Flea Bottom, even inside the Red Keep itself. His command was simple: burn them all. Aerys literally thought he would rise from the ashes as a dragon. It was a genocidal act of madness that would have killed every man, woman and child in the capital, an estimated 500,000 souls. Then Aerys turned to Jaime with one last command: bring him the head of his own father, Tywin Lannister. In that moment, Jaime was trapped. Obey his king and let hundreds of thousands of innocent people, including his own father, burn to death. Or break the most sacred vow a knight can take and kill the king he was sworn to protect. He chose to save them. He killed the pyromancer first. Then he faced the king in the throne room. When Aerys went to give the order again, Jaime drove his sword into the Mad King's back and slit his throat, silencing the words, "Burn them all forever." He saved 500,000 people, and in the moments after, as he sat on the Iron Throne, exhausted and horrified, in walks Ned Stark. The famously honourable Ned Stark sees a treacherous knight on the throne above the body of his murdered king and judges him guilty on the spot. He never asked why. He never gave Jaime a chance to explain. And in that moment of silent judgment, the story was set in stone for the next 17 years. Jaime Lannister was the Kingslayer, a man without honour. Knowing what really happened in that throne room changes everything about Jaime's story. His journey isn't a classic redemption arc where a bad guy slowly becomes a good guy. It's a revelation arc where the hero who was there all along is slowly revealed to us, and even to himself. Killing Aerys wasn't the start of his dishonour, it was the source of it. His anger, his cynicism, his embrace of his awful reputation. It all comes from the trauma of being condemned for his single greatest act. When you see him this way, his other heroic moments no longer feel like a change of character. They feel like a confirmation of it. Think about his relationship with Brienne. He starts by mocking her, but he's the one who stops his men from hurting her. He's the one who, after being freed, willingly goes back to Harrenhal, a place of incredible trauma for him, and jumps into a bear pit, unarmed, to save her life. This isn't a man suddenly finding his moral compass. It's a man who always had one but buried it under layers of resentment. Brienne is the first person who sees past the Kingslayer and treats him with honor, and in doing so she reminds him of the man he tried to be. Then there's his defiance of Cersei. For seasons his love for her was a force that justified anything. But when the army of the dead is marching south, and Cersei breaks her promise to help fight them, Jaime makes a different choice. He leaves her. He turns his back on the one person he built his entire life around and rides north to join his enemies because he understands the bigger threat. He chooses to fight for the living. This is a monumental decision, the final break from the toxic bond that drove so many of his worst moments. He finally chooses his own honor over his love for her. Even freeing his brother Tyrion was a quiet rebellion against his family's cruelty. Unlike Tywin and Cersei, who hated Tyrion, Jaime always showed him kindness. Freeing Tyrion from the black cells and from certain execution was a direct defiance of his father and a testament to the real love he had for his brother. These actions, saving Brienne, fighting the Night King, freeing Tyrion, they're all pieces of the same man. The man who, as a scared teenager, made an impossible choice to save a city and was punished for it. He wasn't becoming a good man. He was finally letting the good man who was always there be seen. Jaime Lannister is a walking paradox. He's introduced as a villain who tries to murder a child, and he dies in the arms of the woman who was both his greatest love and his greatest weakness. His story isn't a clean path from evil to good. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's tragic. But at its heart, it's the story of a hero who was forced to wear a villain's name. His one act of treason, killing Aerys Targaryen, wasn't a moment of dishonor. It was the most honorable thing he ever did. He sacrificed his reputation, his name, and the world's respect to save 500,000 lives. For years, he hid behind a wall of cynicism because the world refused to see the truth. Yet, through his actions, through the moments of quiet courage and sacrifice, the true man was revealed. He was a man who, despite everything, believed in honor enough to be tormented by losing it. He was flawed, he was broken, and his love for Cersei was a poison that ultimately destroyed him. But he was not a traitor, he was a savior. The greatest tragedy of the Kingslayer is that the one act that should have defined him as a hero is the very one that condemned him to be a villain. So where do you stand on the Kingslayer? After hearing the truth behind the betrayal, do you think Jaime Lannister was a hero, a villain, or something much more complicated? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more.